hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
This meeting for Friday, October the 9th, 2020 is called to order. Before proceeding, I just bring to your attention that our Marshal, Captain Blake, is ill and in quarantine in keeping with the protocols for persons who have tested positive for COVID. So our thoughts and prayers are with Captain Blake. Other members of the chamber staff were tested in accordance with protocols of persons who come into direct contact with persons who have tested positive. And I'm pleased to announce that thus far no member of the parliamentary staff have been put in a position where they require quarantine. Mrs. Cook is off because of other health issues unrelated to questions of COVID. I wish to take the opportunity to welcome you all here. I did it at the opening of the Parliament, but perhaps it was not as unusual that we were not in this place. Welcome you all, Leader, and your team, and Leader, and your team. Welcome all of you. We had an orientation session this morning for our new senators to introduce them to members of the staff and familiarize them with the plant. So we hope that we'll have a fruitful session. I know, Leader, that the legislative agenda is pretty hectic, and I'm hoping that with the cooperation of all members of the Senate, we'll be able to get through some good work this session. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following. Ministry Paper number 63 of 2020, entitled Appointment of Cabinet Ministers of State and the Attorney General. Ministry Paper number 64 of 2020, an annual report of the National Health Fund for the year 2018-2019. Ministry Paper number 65 of 2020, an annual reports of the Financial Services Commission for the years 2017-18 and 2018-19. Ministry Paper number 63 of 2020, an annual report of the Department of Correctional Services for the year 2014. Ministry Paper number 67 of 2020, an annual report of the Casino Gaming Commission for the years 2017-2018 and 2018-2019. Ministry Paper number 68 of 2020, an annual report of the Planning Institute of Jamaica for the year ending December 31, 2018. Ministry Paper number 69 of 2020, and the Public Accountancy Board annual reports for the years 2017-2018 and 2018-2019. Ministry Paper number 70 of 2020, an annual report on audited financial statements for the Financial Services Limited for the years 2017-2018 and 2018-2019. Ministry Paper number 71 of 2020, an annual report on audited financial statements for the Financial Services Adjustment Sector Limited for the years 2017, 2018, and 2018-2019. Annual reports of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica for the years 2015, 2016, and 2016-2017. The Auditor General's Department Performance Audit Report on the Hard Capacity of Skills Training Program. Annual reports of the Jamaica Promotions Corporation for the years 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017, and 2017-2018. Annual report on audited financial statements of the Kingston Free Zone Company Limited for the year 2017-2018. Annual report of the Overseas Examination Commission for the year 2018-2019. The Spring Garden Irrigation Area Order 2020 under the Irrigation Act. Second, supplementary estimates for the financial year ending March 31, 2021. The fiscal policy paper for interim report dated October 6, 2020 for the financial year ending March 31, 2021. And INDECOM's second quarterly report 2020 for the period April to June 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives.
The following is the message from the Speaker of the House of Representatives to the Honourable Senate. I have the honor to advise the Honourable Senate that on the 6th day of October 2020, a bill entitled "An Act to Implement the Convention Abolishing the Requirement of Legislation for Foreign Public Documents Done at The Hague on the 5th day of October 1961 and for Connected Matters" was passed in the House of Representatives with 8 amendments. Signed, Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Mr. President, I signify my willingness to take charge of the bill.
Thank you, Minister.
A bill shortly entitled the Authentication Foreign Public Documents Act 2020. Read the first time.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bill.
Thank you, Minister. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and I'm sorry.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motions. Be it resolved that in accordance with Standing Orders numbers 66 and 67, this Honourable Senate appoint a Standing Orders Committee comprising the following members: Senator the Honourable Tom Tavares Finson, QCJP, Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Ransford Braham, QC, Senator Cavan Gale, CD, Senator Dr. Sapphire Longmore, Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez, Senator Donna Scott Motley, Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, Senator Sophia Fraser Binns. Be it resolved that in accordance with Standing Orders numbers 66 and 70, this Honourable Senate appoint a Senate committee comprising the following members: Senator the Honourable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Cavan Gale, CD, Senator Dr. Sapphire Longmore, Senator Delroy Williams, Senator Damian Crawford, Senator Janice Allen. 3, be it resolved that in accordance with Standing Orders number 66 and 68, this Honourable Senate appoint a Committee of Privileges comprising the following members: Senator the Honourable Tom Tavares Finson, QCJP, Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Cavan Gale, CD, Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez, Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, Senator Lambert Brown. 4, be it resolved that this, in accordance with Standing Orders numbers 66 and 69, this Honourable Senate appoint a Regulations Committee comprising the following members: Senator Ransford Braham, QC, Senator the Honourable Leslie Campbell, Senator Delroy Williams, Senator Shireen Golding Campbell, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, Senator Janice Allen. 5, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoint a committee comprising the following members: Senator Ransford Braham, QC, Senator Charles Sinclair, Senator Donald Webby, Senator Shireen Golding Campbell, Senator Damian Crawford, Senator Janice Allen, to sit jointly with a similar committee to be appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report on private bills. 6, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoint a committee comprising the following members: Senator Cavan Gale, CD, Senator Dr. Sophia Longmore, Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez, Senator Donna Scott Motley, Senator Gabrielle Morris, to sit jointly with a similar committee appointed by the House of Representatives to consider and report on the bill shortly entitled the Sexual Harassment Act 2020. 7, whereas subsection 1G1 of Section 41 of the Constitution of Jamaica requires a member of this Honourable Senate to vacate his seat if any firm in which he is a partner or any company of which he is a director or manager becomes a party to any contract with the Government of Jamaica for or on account of the public service, or if he becomes a partner in a firm or a director or manager of a company which is party to any such contract. And whereas Senator Donna Scott Motley is a director and shareholder of Toby Heights Development Company Limited, which may from time to time enter into contracts with the Government of Jamaica and its agencies, and whereas Senator Donna Scott Motley has disclosed her interest in this company, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate, pursuant to subsection 1G1 of Section 41 of the Constitution, and in recognition of her having disclosed her interest in the named entity, exempt the said senator from vacating her seat for reasons as aforesaid. 8, whereas subsection 1G1 of Section 41 of the Constitution of Jamaica requires a member of this Honourable Senate to vacate his seat if any firm in which he is a partner or any company of which he is a director or manager becomes a party to any contract with the Government of Jamaica for or on behalf of or on account of the public service, or if he becomes a partner in any firm or a director or manager of a company in which is a party to any such contract. And whereas Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns is the managing partner in the law firm Paulwell, Fraser-Binns and Associates, attorneys at law, and may from time to time enter into contracts with the Government of Jamaica and its agencies, and whereas Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns has disclosed her interest in this law firm, be it resolved that this Honourable Senate, pursuant to subsection 1G1 of Section 41 of the Constitution, and in recognition of her having disclosed her interest in the named entity, exempt the said senator from vacating her seat for reasons as aforesaid. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today I will move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motions, notice of which I have given.
Thank you, Minister. Questions and answers to questions? Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. Minister.
Mr. President, I now move for suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motions, notice of which I gave earlier.
You have heard the Minister. Those in favour? Against?
Mr. President, I now move that the motions, notice of which I have given, be approved.
Question has been put. Those in favour? Against?
Mr. President, it is not intended to do any further business today, but I do believe that it is there is an important occasion to be recognized, and Senator Dr. Longmore will say a few words with your leave.
Thank you very much. Senator Longmore, what was that gasp of surprise, President Morris? Well, you might speak too soon.
I tell you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I rise, and good morning to all. Happy to be back in Gordon House on such a lovely Friday morning. I rise on two very important matters of the nation. It is the recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Mental Health Week. It's 3 years for me since I have been diagnosed, and I'm now, I don't see myself as a survivor. I see myself as a thriver. And that is what I wish and I know is possible for anyone who faces such a daunting diagnosis. It can be a very traumatic, very earth-shattering moment when someone comes to the realization that they may be afflicted with something like the big C, like cancer. But it is the preparation that you do before, it is the way that you live your life that can make the difference in terms of the outcome significantly. No two cancers are the same. No two circumstances are the same. But there are certain fundamental measures that one can do to enable your chances. We have heard diet and exercise, healthy living, the practices that enable good health generally. But I want to underscore the importance of screening, doing your health checks, getting good rest, exercise, as I've said before, and maintaining a healthy diet. In these times of COVID, I personally have been on the mantra about immune boosting. This is not just about COVID prevention. It is about general health and maintaining a lifestyle that encourages this. Another very significant thing when it comes on to dealing with cancer is securing good insurance. Because at the end of the day, we can all live the healthy lives that we have. And if you're not able to secure the medications that make the difference, that could be the difference between your life and what might not be your life. So I enable and I encourage as many persons as I can. A lot of persons have reached out to me and I have directed them where and such. But try your very best to secure insurance. Yes, it is. And I mean, a lot of persons may just hear the rhetoric, but I can tell you that that made the difference between life and death for me. We have made many significant strides in seeing to increasing our screening, increasing the access to treatment across Jamaica. We have opened new facilities for radiation and chemotherapy treatments out in Western region. We have started another mammogram screening up at the University Hospital. So there is effort to increase the actual resources for diagnosis and treatment. But I, again, enable and encourage us to seek good insurance. I will never forget the support and the love that I got here. And that community sense and that ability to garner support even when you did not realize how much you needed it. It's how you live your life that makes a huge difference when these challenges come at your door. And I am forever grateful to members here who went on that journey with me. As I say, I'm here to stay. The next very significant thing that our nation is recognizing at this time is Mental Health Week. And I particularly wanted to mention this at this time when mental health is becoming so very, very critical for us as we deal with this COVID crisis. A lot of, let me tell you, the hospitals are getting it. I am getting the personal messages. What I recognize is that COVID has basically enhanced whatever was there before, good and bad. There are many lessons to learn. But if you had a good interaction, a good interpersonal relationship, it is enhanced. Likewise, if it is a negative relationship, if there were issues before, COVID has heightened those issues. And so, unfortunately, we're seeing the stress levels going up. We're seeing the anxiety going up. We're seeing interpersonal relationship breaking apart. Divorce rates are up, unfortunately. Domestic violence rates are up. Child abuse rates are up. And we have to recognize, one of the things that we must do as a nation is actually recognize what the issues are and put the measures in place. And the Ministry of Health and Wellness is on a significant campaign to try to address as much of these issues as possible. You see where there is increased utilization of community mental health aides who are being trained to impart with psychological support. You have increased volunteer services. You have the hotline, a suicide hotline that is available on the Ministry of Health website, where you can call if you're having significant issues coping with COVID and actually contemplating the very dire circumstance of suicide. But I specifically also want to bring to attention, we recognize that certain age groups are affected by this crisis. And we know, especially with the little kids who are going back to school and the stresses there, structure is critical. Structure is not just critical for the children, but it's critical for the parents. So I encourage parents to set up schedules for the little kids. This is one of the benefits of being in a school, in a physical school, where there is a timetable set out. Try to replicate this at home for the very little ones. It also helps with your capabilities to manage. A lot of parents are pulling their hair out dealing with online schooling. Set up a schedule. And this schedule should include things like exercise, proper diet, rope the kids into how you are providing for the family generally. We also recognize that the elderly is a very vulnerable group at this time. Many initiatives are being targeted towards the elderly. But you within yourself, reach out, contact, enable them to use technology, because that is the way to go. Teach them how to reach out using Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, video calling, etc., etc. It goes a far way in helping them in what they may be feeling as a very isolated situation. Ensure that they have their medications. This is another critical aspect of what the elderly has to deal with. The worry that they may not be able to maintain the care of whatever other illnesses they may be dealing with. Not just food supplies, but the medications that may be keeping them alive. Another significant group, I'm kind of skipping over adults and our age group because I think there's a lot of information out there with respect to the maintenance of exercise, diet, etc., etc. But particularly, I am concerned about the teens and young adults. This age group, I think, of all the age groups, if you think about it, is the ones whose lives are probably the most dramatically impacted by this significant lack of social contact amongst our people. The young ones will learn to adjust to the online life, etc. The older ones, we have kind of assimilated and have grown. But the teenagers and the young adults who are going through their natural developmental stage that requires social interaction and development are significantly affected by this lack of social interaction. It is a part of their growth to experiment and to feel out where they belong within a society. And this is a very trying time, and it is also probably one of the reasons why the infection rates among teens and young adults is going up, because it is so difficult for them to refrain from social interaction. And so I would suggest that parents of teen and young adults make a greater effort to speak to them, to let them understand, to enable whatever safe interaction they can have with their companions to do so. It is a critical thing, and I am concerned about the long-term effects that this may be having on this significant population. I want to just also recognize one major technical concern within mental health care and treatment at this time, and it is the supply of medications. It is the supply of medications. And this is kind of preemptively, but we are seeing early signs where, because of the effect, a lot of our medications are supplied from places like India and Indonesia, et cetera, et cetera. And some of the raw materials for the manufacture of these medications are slow in acquisition. And so the actual availability of some of the critical drugs that we need is very, very questionable. And what that means is that the quote-unquote madman that persons would normally be able to stabilize and keep in a somewhat functional situation, because of the lack of availability of some of these medications, you could see an escalation in the relapse rates, pressure on the health sector. And therein lies a problem that we must preempt and must address, because it could escalate into very, very negative outcomes. And at this time, I also want to bring more attention and encourage and enable my fellow workers and servants in the health sector. I think we owe them a tremendous, tremendous recognition of gratitude. They are under significant stress, they are under significant pressure, but they are pushing through, and I just want them to know that the gratitude of the nation is there, and whatever support they need to get their job done, I am sure that the minister is very aware and is pushing to make such happen. And so at this time, Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Mental Health Week, during the times of COVID, it is all about preparation. Preparation is the best prevention. Prevention is better than cure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Longmore.
Mr. President.
Senator Fraser-Binns.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you know, we can always rely on Senator Longmore to bring these issues to our attention and to evoke that passion in all of us. Senator Longmore, you continue to be an inspiration for all of us. And I like the term you now use to describe yourself. You're not a survivor, you're a thriver. I think it's so important. You see, Mr. President, for those of us who have been touched by cancer one way or another, we don't just think about it and acknowledge the need for more awareness and help during the month of October, but it is something that ever so often you think about. In my own case, every time I need like a support, and I was like, boy, if my mother was here, or if something happens, I say, boy, my mother, or I hear a story, and I like, my God, you know, and so it is so constantly a part of you. And as I listened to Senator Longmore, and she spoke about insurance, which is something we're both passionate about, I recall the importance the insurance was in my mother's case. And I've spoken about it in this place already. Because it does make the difference between life and death. And it makes the difference between the type of life you can live for those of us who manage to survive. And I'm very pleased to say that I have been informed of insurance companies that have taken the steps to treat with some of these female-specific illnesses. I'm very pleased about that. And I know that there is a certain senator who shall be nameless who has something to do with an entity who understands and appreciates the importance of insurance for females. And I think that such an insurance is one of the many that must be celebrated. And I'm not looking anywhere but at you, Mr. President. Next thing you think I'm curry favoring, so I'm looking at you, Mr. President. But I think it is such an important thing for us. Senator Longmore, you mentioned the issue of mental health. And, you know, when Mr. President mentioned it to me this morning, I said, look at that. Because just this week, I was reading in the Gleaner an article where I think it's Dr. Thomas, who was speaking about the number of children who have been entertaining the idea of suicide. And I was appalled just to hear that. But I was even more appalled when he spoke about the age group. We're not talking about teenagers. He mentioned that these children are pre-teenagers, and in my mind, I cannot fathom how a pre-teenager could come up with that thought. But the fact, Mr. President, it is the reality of the times we're in. It's the reality that it is one of the effects of COVID. And, you know, he spoke about the fact that they feel so restrained. They feel they're locked inside the house. They can't go out. They cannot interact with their friends. They can't entertain each other. And then they do not know how to treat with it. And, you know, as parents, as leaders, we have that added duty to communicate with our children, with our friends' children, with everybody we come across, so they understand that this is a process. This too shall pass. It is not something that any of us would have wanted or even fathomed, but it is what it is. But as a team, as we work together, we will get through it. And I think it is something that we have to do constantly, constantly, constantly. And then I also think about the parents who themselves are caregivers of children who have some form of mental challenge, mental health challenge. And the reality of it is that oftentimes we focus on the person who is affected by the mental health issue, and we do not think about the caregiver. From experience, I can tell you that it is equal, and Senator Longmore, you'll agree, it is equally challenging on the caregiver as it is on the mental health person. And so one of the things we have to do is to ensure that there's sufficient support. I know that the Ministry of Health has really started to put some focus on it, but perhaps we need to have more helplines open. We need to have more persons available 24/7 so that persons can call, they can talk about it, because it is so important. You know, my girlfriend who has a child with a mental health issue, and when she talks to me about it, she is so overwhelmed. And the sad thing about it is those persons who have to treat with it, they do not feel that they're persons who they can talk to honestly. They feel that they're being judged. They feel like people are looking down at them. And so they bottle all of this inside. And it destroys families. It destroys relationship. And so, you know, we also have to put some time and resources for the caregivers, because they too have a burden to bear. And, you know, I recall a conversation, and I actually shared it with Senator Scott Mosley some weeks ago. And I was talking with my 4-year-old, everybody knows Nathan Charles, and he wanted to see his friends. And I said, Nathan, you can't. And he's crying, and he can't understand. And I said, but Nathan, remember COVID? And he looked at me and he said, Mommy, COVID is unfair. And I just bawl, you know, because what do I say at that point? What really can I say to a 4-year-old who looks at me and tells me that COVID is unfair? it is the reality, you know, and we just don't, we don't even begin to understand what they go through. School has started for him, and he usually enjoys school, and now he just doesn't. And he cries every morning to go to school because he doesn't want, it's not school, it's Skype, it's Zoom, it's not school for him. And you know, what I had to do was to say, okay, fine, I called his friend, he has a best friend, and we arranged that they will have classes together. And you can see the change in him. He gets up early, he wants to bathe, he gets ready, put on his polo shirt, and he's off to knit. He likes that. And I share that example because as parents, we too have to find ways to help them to cope. And I know there is a real risk. There is a risk. But we have to find the least risky way of helping our children and our relatives to cope in this new norm. And finally, Mr. President, as we speak about mental health, one of the things, and just this week I had a discussion with Professor Sams Vaughan, that, and maybe five years from now, Senator Longmore, we will see the real effect, is the issue of autism. Because with COVID and children not being able to go to school and not being able to get the kind of attention, you find that children with special needs are the ones who are going to be impacted academically. And I don't know if I have a solution, but I believe that as a country, it is something we need to start to look at. And of course, that of course is compounded by the fact that the Pediatric Association says that children under a certain age must not be exposed to screen time, and over a certain age must be an hour or 2 hours. So it is unprecedented times for us, which has short, medium, and long-term mental health issues. And I believe that it is time for us to put everything aside, colors aside, politics aside, and have bipartisan, multi-stakeholders consultation and discussion as to how we're going to deal with this. Because we're not seeing the real effects of COVID. 5 years from now is when we will see the real effect. Because in my mind, not to be insensitive to those who have been affected, but the real effect is going to be beyond just the physical. It's going to be the psychological, the mental, the social, the financial. And in the short to medium term, we'll see that. And I think this is a time for all of us to come together as a nation to see how we treat with that. And in closing, Mr. President, I will talk about mental health. My heart warmed when I read the article about the young Calabar student with autism who was able to earn 4 subjects in CXC. And what it did for me, and this is how I want to end, when the mother spoke about the fact that up to the age of 4 he could not speak, and she wondered what was wrong, and she was totally petrified and unnerved when she was told that she had to take him to Ward 21, the stigma that's attached to it. But she stuck to it, she gave support, and she had good support. And a couple years later, not only did he speak, but he was able to get 4 subjects in CXC. And that, I believe, is something that we can be proud of. Congratulate Calabar, too, for facilitating. Absolutely, we must congratulate Calabar, indeed. And so, Mr. President, I close by saying that as we stop to think about Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Mental Health Awareness Week, that the biggest thing we can do as a country is to speak up, speak out, come together, and end the stigma. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to both Senator Fraser-Binns and Senator Longmore for inspiring presentations that the new members of the Senate can certainly, having observed it, take lessons from. Minister?
Mr. President, Mr. President, I too feel quite optimistic about the session ahead of us, the parliamentary session that's ahead of us. If the tone of today's contributions to the motion on adjournment are anything to go by, I won't offend the male members of the Senate by attributing the increased positive energy to the increased feminine presence. I won't. But Mr. President, I do in fact think that there is beauty in diversity, there is value in diversity, and certainly the perspectives and approach brought by women into different spaces is always something to be celebrated and noted each time until it becomes something which we no longer have to note and recognize for the difference it brings. So with that, Mr. President, it is not intended to do any further business. I simply wish, however, to encourage all women in Jamaica who are listening, who are watching, remember to get your mammogram. And if you don't go to someone to get your mammogram, do your self-test. You can ask how it can be done if you are not tech savvy. You can have someone help you on the computer to do a Google or a YouTube search as to how to do a self-exam. I must admit that I have been postponing my appointment for about a year now, which is a very, very, very bad example to set. And yes, and my last postponement was actually scheduled for yesterday, and I am making the new appointment. Next Friday will not catch me not having done it, Mr. President. I promise. But it is important. It is important, especially after you pass a certain age. It is important to do it more regularly. So I just want to ask us to join, remember to encourage persons, and the young women too, because cancer is manifesting itself much earlier than it used to. In many young people, it comes as even more of a shock. And men if they have a family history as well. Yes, and you can all Google search that issue as well. Senator Hill?
Done that.
Mr. President, again, I welcome all members back to this honorable chamber, to this honorable Senate. I look forward to a robust legislative agenda for the year. There's actually quite a bit coming down the pipe across all sectors. And I know everyone here, experienced and new, will take the debates as seriously as they rather grant them the respect which they require, and ensure that we get the nation's business done with efficiency and with commitment to national interest and national service. So with that, Mr. President, I ask that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Yeah, I'm going to just give Senator Scott Martin an opportunity to respond.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Mr. President. I have to say that I was myself very pleased. I had not identified why I was so happy to be here today. And perhaps it has to do with just a wonderful blend of both male and female energy. My diplomacy tells me that that is the best way to couch it. I want to take the opportunity of welcoming the new members to my team and the new members to the government side. I hope that in time you will get to know the senators on this side. And I must confess that I do know the senators, your new female additions. And in particular, you know me, Leader. I am not going to allow the occasion to pass without pointing out that Senator Natalie Campbell Rodriguez, her husband is from Clarendon, and I know him very well. But you knew Clarendon had to come. Somehow we always walk that journey. I am looking forward to this new term. I hope that it continues in very much the same way that we have started out today. Because, President, it is important that we set the tone of leadership for the country and that we show how things can happen when we work together with the same objective in mind. I also want to wish the Marshal the best because, you know, he is missed. I am relieved that there is no other member of this very important staff which needs to be quarantined. But in case there are persons who did not speak to the Marshal, I would like to report that his symptoms are very mild and that he has resorted to taking all of his granny's remedies, which he says works remarkably well. I hope that we continue in the same way with no cause for concern about any member, whether of the Senate or of the staff, Mr. President. And I join Senator Longmore in just encouraging persons to boost their immune system. I also note that our clerk is not well, and I'm sure that the entire Senate would want to wish her a very speedy recovery and to tell her that we hold her in our thoughts and our concern. Mr. President, the leader has spoken about breast cancer, and I, like her, confess that I have not been as careful as I need to be. And seriously, Sapphire, I mean, I did tell her that I even wore pink in honor of her since she was celebrating her 3 years of just being recovered. And her beautiful hair, which of course, we know how she went from having it completely shaven to where it is now. So I want to join in encouraging the women in this regard. I say, do not follow the example of your leadership. You go and do your test. It's important. And in thanking you for the opportunity to speak, Mr. President, the issue of mental health. It's a very sad story for me. I remember once when I had to explain to you that I had to leave the Senate very early, even though I think it was Senator Reid who was speaking. I had to leave early because I had to go and make an arrangement for my nephew who has an issue with mental health. And I can tell you it is the most painful experience in the world to watch and feel totally helpless when a member of your family is suffering and you just don't understand and you don't know what to do. And you feel like, why did it have to happen to me? Look how many people in the world, why did it have to choose to come into my family? I have read widely, I have reflected, and I hope that someday, we will be able to share publicly what we're going through. That is not something that we are embarrassed to speak about in public, so that the stigma of having somebody who is suffering from mental health can be removed. And we can just treat it like diabetes. Oh, what a glorious day that would be. I also remember that Senior Citizens Week just passed. And Alzheimer's, although Senator Longman, I'm not sure what category it falls into, is also something that as your family ages, your family members age, you have to cope with. And that too takes its toll on caregivers. But if the society could just be a little bit more understanding and a little bit more supportive about some of the things that we endure as human beings, regardless of who we are, then this world would be such a much better place. So I look forward to the future when the stigma of mental health will be reduced. I celebrate the autistic children who, as much as they suffer, show incredible brilliance in one area. I celebrate the diversity in life. And I thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to say so on this occasion, if it pleases you.
Thank you all. The question is that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Against? This Honourable Senate now stands adjourned.